show starts in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
Peace and blessings, my family. Welcome back to another brainstorming session where we bring you nothing but live information, real life strategies, and real connections for the most part. As you guys know, we always love to bring you a special guest. We always love to, make sure that we bring in just different people from different backgrounds in the industry to, really just touch on, what we love to always touch on, which is entrepreneurship, generational wealth, and economic growth for the most part. So, hey, if you tap in with us live, make sure you check out and make sure you subscribe, like, and share this video. Make sure you actually also drop your websites, social media platforms. You just never know who might be tapping in, who might want to just connect with you guys. This is what it's all about, connecting the dots, making sure that we're connected with, like-minded individuals, and making sure that we can just get ahead of, because as you all know, it's pretty hard to be an entrepreneur. It's hard building anything, no matter what industry, what background you're coming from, and we all need a village, right? So, that's what we're all about. We're always, our main goal is to provide you guys with as much and as many resources as possible, as much information as possible. Speaking of information, definitely make sure you guys check out our website, www.mastermybusiness.com. We have a lot of great updates for you guys, a lot of key features, a lot of great resources for you guys. So definitely check us out. Figure out how you can actually benefit. Whether it's getting business funding, whether you need help with business planning and strategies, whether you need help with incorporating AI automation into your company, or you just need help with advertising and marketing, juggling your social media accounts, social media management, or if you just need some custom merchandise to brand yourself. We're here for you. Got an amazing team for you guys. Or whether you need, video, audio production, photography, website design or graphic design. We got an amazing team for you guys. We got a lot of great resources. So yeah, we know how I feel, to not have these resources, especially me. I've been there, done that. So, that's our main goal is to, help provide these resources to you guys. Shout out to all of our members, affiliates and mentors. And you can actually go on our website and check out some of our member highlights. Also, definitely check out Mob TV. You can actually check out some of our exclusive interviews, recap videos from different events and activities we've done in the past. And also, if you want to go back and check out some of our brainstorming session recaps and check out some of the gems we've dropped in the past, check out some of the past guests we've had. It's all on Mob TV. So definitely go subscribe and watch. Also, and I always like to stress this, it's probably one of the most powerful sections on our whole website, which is our resource center. We got, different ebooks on there, just like our business credit and scary ebook to kind of help you guys, help give you guys a roadmap to building your business, getting ahead, being able to get some capital. We also have some resources on here if you need help, restoring your credit, or just getting it where it needs to be, or monitoring your credit, or if you just need some grants or some unconventional funding. We have a few links on there as well, so make sure you guys check out our resource center ASAP for sure. We all can use some extra resources, right? Also, make sure you guys check out our Friend of the Mile program, which is our donor program. We have a lot of people who just want to support the movement, who might not have a business or a project they're working on, but just want to support some of our programs, especially our educational programs. This is all about just bringing all hands on deck, pulling together the community. So, if you want to become a friend of the mob, definitely check out that link, and it'll walk you through the process. It's a super easy process to sign up. And, like I said, it's all hands on deck. That's what it's all about. Also, definitely check out some of our sponsored members and affiliates. Check out some of the brands, some of the companies that we work with and have been working with for years. Check out some of the great things that they have going on. If you actually want to become an affiliate, definitely check out our affiliate program, and figure out, how you can actually, just provide more value to the community. I know we all know someone who's either, running a business or thinking about starting a business. So, bring them on in, get them a part of the mob, bring them into our community, introduce them to, our mentors and advisors, and get them, help them get the resources that they need. And that's what it's all about. So, at the same time, it's nothing like helping, your fellow entrepreneur out, helping somebody out in need, and also getting paid for it. So that's what our affiliate program is all about. So definitely make sure you guys check that out. And always tap into our website. We always have new updates. We pretty much pride ourselves on keeping our website updated for you guys, making sure that you guys have all of the resources possible. We're always into adding more resources on there. So definitely stay tuned. Subscribe to our mailing list. And hey, stay tuned into the resources. And also, if you have some ideas or any questions or concerns for us, make sure you can email us, DM us, or contact us directly via phone. Yeah, we're always available. We also have an AI chatbot right on our website as well that you can ask, frequently asked questions on. If you don't, if you want to pretty much just get straight to the point, you can ask questions right with our AI chatbot. And hey, if you're tapped in live with us, make sure you guys, drop your websites, drop your social medias in the chat. Also, what I want you guys to do as well, I want you guys to let us know what problem are you solving in the community with your company, or what challenge do you plan on overcoming this year. We getting some things done this year. It's 2026, and I'm super blessed to be able to just make it another year, man. I'm pretty sure you guys all feel the same. We all, you feel that new year energy. So this year, man, we're gonna be doing some great things. We got a lot of great events and activities coming up for you guys. We're connecting with new entrepreneurs. We have some new members, some new mentors, some new advisors that we want to introduce you guys to. And we're going to be starting some new webinars as well, just like, including our AI masterclass that we're going to actually start doing every last Thursday of the month, hosted by my guy, D. Hudson, who's been in the game for over 20 years. He's going to actually show you guys how to take advantage of these AI tools, and he's actually going to show you guys how to build your own AI tools. So I'm super excited about this. If you know me, I'm a advocate of AI, and just of adapting. Period. I think any tools that's going to help us adapt and take our ideas further. I'm 100% behind. So if you're a business owner, this is the best time to get involved, and this is the best time to really just be aware and get people around you that have the knowledge when it comes to AI. So hey, I don't want to hold you guys up too much longer. I want to bring up our special guest. What's going on, Shawn? Go ahead and unmute yourself real quick.
Hey, how are you? How are
I'm
you?
I'm blessed. I'm blessed. I'm highly favored, man. For the people that don't know, let the people know who you are and what it is that you do.
Okay, so Shawn Moye, I am an inventor, entrepreneur. Um, Back when I first started, I developed a product, training aid product, sports training aid product for my son. I worked a lot. I had to decide if I wanted to send him to specialized camps or go to work and pay bills. So I couldn't do both. I had to pick. So that's where this entrepreneur journey invention started. So what it is a sports training aid geared toward the youth, to help young athletes develop consistent training habits, the muscle memories, the mental skills needed to succeed in sports. So that's what my product is around.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love like I said, I'm all about adapting. I'm all about the future. I love, connecting with different people that just, innovators at the end of the day. So, that's what I think that's what it's all about. I think that's the best feature about, being a human being at the end of the day and being a creator. What excites you most about, the role that you play, and, just being an entrepreneur in general?
I think leaping into my leaping into the unknown, right? It's what I learned early on, being comfortable or getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. I love that. My pastor years ago told me fall in love with the process. So just along the way, I've just learned how to fall in love with the process, learning new things, meeting new people while I develop my process or my product is what most excites me. Seeing people develop, not only other people but myself as well. So building is huge. That's why I love what you're doing. I'm like, man, where were you when I started this? I love it. One stop shopping.
Most definitely, most definitely. We gotta, it grew over the years. I kept seeing different, struggles different entrepreneurs have.
Yes.
I've been a consultant for years now. I've been a serial entrepreneur for about 17 years. So, I had to really dig deep into some of the things that I didn't have, coming to, I didn't know the difference between, good and bad debt, how to, utilize credit, different things like that. I didn't know anything about business structure and, building a village. One of the things that you said that really spoke out, to me is something that I always, and they gonna think it's scripted, but I always tell our members and anybody that I really talk to, you have to love the process. This is
Oh
like
my
one of the
God.
most important things about being
Mhm.
an entrepreneur because it's not easy, right?
No.
So you have to love the whole process, and not just I think all of us start off with a passion, but and then we don't have any idea all the other things that's gonna pretty much come. So you gotta learn to love that full passion, and love to learn that process, learn and love that process at the end of the day. So I love that for sure, for sure. So real quick, I want to talk about branding. What is the most common branding mistake you see entrepreneurs make, and what do you feel like is a better approach?
For me, maybe not having a true scope of what the brand is supposed to look like. I think maybe starting too early, and it's so wide, it's so vague on what their branding looks like. For me, I call it slicing the elephant, right? So, um, for me, even when I first started, I wanted to do 100 different things, and even with the product, I can do a million things, and then at the end of the day, people are like, "But what is it?" So I think starting too wide and starting too vague in the branding process, I think maybe something you may see a lot is what I see. And for me, it's just focusing, streamlining things. There's a lot of different things you can do, even as humans, and anything we put our hands to. But what do we focus on? What is our niche? What do we develop and focus and build that? And then you can expand to different things. So I think that's a big thing right there.
No, you just hit it right on the head. It's crazy because I was actually just talking to actually one of our family members yesterday, and they're entrepreneurs as well, and
Mhm.
they were just saying like they're conflicted because they have so many different ideas that they want to kind of touch on, and
Yes.
they hear all these people saying, "Hey, you just stick to one thing." My thing is, I'm kind of on both sides. I think
Mhm.
do what you're capable of doing. If you are good at multitasking, hey, or if you have enough resources, a big enough village to, tap into different things, by all means, because myself, I'm an octopus. I love, putting, my hands in different things, but then there's, hey, if you see that it's slowing you up, then I think, you need to just be real with yourself and say, hey, I need to slow it down and really focus in on, one thing or one or two things, your main objectives. So I think, I really think it depends on who you are at the end of
Yeah.
the day.
Do you see a lot of entrepreneurs, inventors, or whoever you deal with? They have a hard time of letting go because I tell people it's not about the aptitude, it's about the time. So it's like, yes, you can do everything, but the time to do it, you just don't, you'll never have it. Do you see that with the people that you deal with?
I mean, time is a big factor. Like I said, I think you're going to get to the point where you're going to hit a ceiling if you don't have the right infrastructure in place. I would say, I think most of the time I see people hit a ceiling because they don't have either enough. I like to call it the big three. Either they don't have the capital, or the team, or the information to really scale how they need. So I
Right.
think like I said, if you have those three things, then by all means, but most of the time mainly it's the capital. If you don't have
Yes.
the capital, then you need to really just dial it down.
Right.
And that was me at one point, as
Mhm.
well. Like I didn't come in, to my entrepreneur journey with the capital either. We had to bootstrap. I had to get out here and
Yes.
feed my dream through different pots. So I think at the end of the day, it's all about, it goes back to what you're capable of doing.
Right.
If you're
Yeah.
somebody like Donald Trump that can get $1 million loan,
Right. Exactly.
hey, by all means. But if you're somebody like me, who had to really, kind of get it out the mud, then sometimes you may want to slow it down and really figure out what's your main niche. Niche it down and
Hmm.
really put your all into that. Like, I really niche it down. I really put my all into digital media and production, which led me to the journey where I'm on now. But that was my main journey, where I was just focusing on that and perfecting our craft, perfecting our content, perfecting it, making sure that we had, making sure that I had all the equipment that I need, and also all of the knowledge. I had to really slow it down and go back to school, and figure out different things. So, it was hard. Like you said, sometimes it's hard to kind of let go, especially at that time. I was already, getting booked and getting flown out and different things like that. But I still had to slow it down. Like, hey, you need to slow it down, go back to school, figure out, what equipment you need, and figure out how to actually use this equipment too, because it's a lot of, I put a lot of money into camera equipment and audio and lighting, but I didn't really know how to properly use all of these things. So that's something that I had to really slow down, and it was the best thing I did, in my career. Slowing it down, figuring it out, and going to get my education and figuring out what equipment I actually needed, and it was a huge, huge turn. So real quick, I really want to touch on one of our other modules. I
Yeah.
really want to touch on marketing, which it goes hand in hand when you're talking about advertising, branding, marketing. With so much noise online, what marketing tactics do you feel is that's underrated that still works?
Man, I think we hear it all the time, right? Word of mouth. Word of mouth still works. Um, Building that there, and like you said, a lot of noise out there, a lot of different things you can do, a lot of different avenues you can go down. But I think word of mouth and building relationships, helping to grow the product is huge. For me, even like today, connecting with good people in safe platforms, safe environments. But I think just building that relationship, building that word of mouth, you got to start small. I know a lot of times we may see it um, on social media and we see it, it's all blown up and all that good stuff. But like you said earlier, even with bootstrapping, you got to do the same thing as you grow this thing. Just it's okay to bootstrap and start slow, and grow it organically versus just I got a billion followers overnight. Nothing happens like that. So I think, and a lot of times I see people, and even I may have gone down that path too, losing a lot of money hiring companies who can take my product to a billion followers overnight, and just to find out none of that happened. So I think that's one that I've learned too, even from myself.
No, most definitely. I think you said, some of the key things, relationships,
Yep.
word of mouth. This is something that we still, I'm still seeing, like, even with us, all of our members, like, literally is from someone else referring them. That word of mouth definitely works. It's big. We don't do any sponsored ads or anything like that. Not that we're against that.
Right.
Maybe down the line, maybe more down the line, or something like that. We will get into that, but right now it's all about, we're hitting the streets, we're hitting the pavement, we're building these relationships, we're fostering these relationships, and not just passing out business cards and setting up calls, from there. Like, we checking up on our people. All of our members turn into family. Everybody that we have within our community, our mentors, our advisors, all of these people are family. At the end of the day, and I think we need to bring that back. We need to bring back the trust. We need to bring back the relationship building skills. At the end of the day, with social media, it's all about just going viral. Right?
Yep.
But at the end of the day, especially with organization like ours, it's based around entrepreneurship. It's based around relationships. It's based around that word of mouth. You can never beat it at the end of the day, because it's the best way to bring back that trust. People want to hear good things from people that they trust. And you can only see so much from social media. So
Right. Exactly.
and this comes from somebody that does a lot of social media marketing and management. And I think that's why our social media, when we do put together social media strategies, they work out a little bit better, because they're based around being authentic, being vulnerable, and really figuring out how can we really connect with this person beyond just getting them to smash the like button at the end of the day. So I
Absolutely.
think that's
You
super.
know, and I love what you said about going back to follow up. Am I my brother's keeper? I love that because a lot of times somebody may be. I got a friend. He called another friend of ours, and I three-wayed in, but he was going through it. He just lost his job. He a male father, husband, and he was just vulnerable with us, and we were able to encourage him. But man, I was like, what if he didn't reach out? Fell by the wayside. I check on them from time to time, but it may not have been the right time. So I love that y'all follow back up. Where are you guys at? You need help. You need support. That's beautiful. I love it.
Because you never know, like you said, you never know what people is going through. On social media, everybody is looking like they living their best life, but
Yeah.
you just never know what people is going through. People is going through life, at the end of the day. And even on the business side, it put us in so many great positions just checking up on somebody. We've got the biggest contracts, the biggest, we've done our biggest projects just off of clearly just checking up on somebody, seeing how they doing, and then from there, and like, man, I was just thinking about you. Matter of fact, man, I was just about to call you or something like that, and it turned into, I need you for this project, right? So I think it's super important to reach out to your community, reach out to your village, man, because we all got life going on. What I mean? We all going through our thing, especially last year was super rough. So definitely check up on your people to figure out how you can add value other than just providing a service at the end of the day. Speaking of value, I'm going to talk about business planning. This is something that we talk about a lot with our members, and making sure. And this is something that really one of the first things that we do when we get a new member on board is go through their business plan. Or if they don't have one, we help them create one as well. How often should an entrepreneur revisit their business plan, and what's the biggest red flag when it's time to update?
So for me, I think it's maybe when you're starting off, it should be maybe at least once a quarter, if not more. But you should be revisiting. I tell people it's like a living, breathing thing, right? You should always be in there looking at it because it's evolving as your product is evolving. It's evolving as you're evolving, and there's a lot of things that change from day to day. And if nothing else, you don't want to lose it. You want to capture it somewhere. So just making sure you do those fine things. And I love what you said about it's almost like the going back to school thing and slowing you down. My pastor would tell us school slows you down. A lot of times kids learn how to talk before they go to school. School slows them down to teach them what the words sound like, what the words mean, all that good stuff, so they can put it all together. So again, reviewing your business plan slows you down, helps you think, helps you to at least reconsider, think about the things you wanted to do, especially if you're maybe kind of trending off path some, kind of helps you refocus. So I think, and then the last part of your question I didn't catch.
I mean, you pretty much answered. Like, what's that red flag? What's the red flag that really, um, pretty much, warrants you to update it? What really, what's that red flag to really make you say, hey, it's really that time to update our business plan.
Yeah, because for me, I was in a cohort, and it was focused around customer discovery. That's all we did in this customer discovery. So I ended up talking to man close to 200 people. By the time I was done, my product had evolved and had transitioned. So I had to pivot away from what I was doing into something else. Time to review the business plan, update that so we can capture that. But yeah, totally. I mean, those type of things you got to remember to kind of go back and look at that too to kind of make sure everything is aligned. So important.
No, I think you touched on something super important. It's a living document. It's
Yeah.
something that, and hey, people, this is not scripted. And because I know y'all hear me say this all the time. And this is one of those things. I think is the most where our brainstorming sessions bring the most value, where we get so many people from different backgrounds, different industries. But we all pretty much say the same thing. That's how you really want to compare information. And I'm always telling our members every quarter we need to revamp,
Mhm.
even if it don't need any revamping, just review because your business is steady evolving. I think this last 5 years just shown how much, the industry itself, even if your business is the same, the industry around it can evolve, right? So I think it's super important to stay vigilant and, stay adapted, man. We gotta adapt, and everybody who, I've spoken to, I might have, did some consultation work with before the pandemic. I've been about adapting, and I think when the pandemic came, it really showed. In just these last 5 years, this is a whole new millennium, for us as business owners in general. A lot of things we had to change. We had to go through a revamping. Just the top of the year, we just revamped our whole systems. We just added some more tools. We ramped our members outlines so they can, basically so we can just keep up with their projects and manage their projects a lot more efficient. So you can never just stop learning and stop adapting at the end of the day.
And even with the introduction of AI, right, and how fast that's evolving. So, I mean, and even with that, and just to pick your brain a little bit, you see people that are afraid of it?
A lot. I probably talk maybe more than I probably have a handful of entrepreneurs that I talk to, even partners that I talk to that's gotten on board. But most of the entrepreneurs that I talk to on a daily basis, they're terrified, right, because of the things that we hear, as far as AI taking 300 million jobs. But I think at the same time, it's going to take these jobs. There's no way around it, right? But at the same time, it's going to also create jobs as well. It's going to create new industries as far as AI consulting, AI management, AI, tech, just different things like that where, we have to evolve, we have to get on board, and we have to prepare our youth. And that's one of the reasons why I'm so excited about our STEAM initiative, where we're going to be touching on science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. But the technology, segment of it, it's gonna be AI heavy, right? We're gonna be teaching the youth how to code, how to use language models, the difference between these different AI tools. We're going to be doing our AI masterclass webinars, hosted by D. Hudson, where he's going to be basically teaching people how to build their own AI tools, right? So we don't have to go through these third parties and then, 100% rely on them, especially as business owners, right? But at the end of the day, we can't be scared of it. We have to just prepare ourselves. And it's just like the major. You see the major corporations doing it. Every major corporation is incorporating AI. That's for a reason. So you have to adapt. They have to adapt. We have to adapt. And at the end of the day, if you use it properly, man, it's gonna be a 360. Man, it's so productive. Even in our company, we've replaced a lot of different a lot of different human bodies with robots, for the most part. But it's still going to be those areas that you just can't replace. We still have to build relationships. That human connection, you can't replace that. You can't replace the passion that we have, right? So at the end of the day, hey, if you find you have to find your way. And as human beings, we always learn to adapt. So I'm not me personally. I'm not worried. I'm more excited than anything. I'm more excited to see where this thing goes. Just to see how it adapted so rapidly in the last 2-3 years. I'm very excited to see where we're going to be 10 years from now, 20 years from now. When my son reaches his adult age, he's going to be equipped with the tools that he needs to stay relevant at the end of the day. And I think that's what it boils down to.
Absolutely. My son just taught himself how to code and built a beautiful platform. And I'm like, we got to keep going with that and growing that. And I tell people, don't just go through it, grow through it. So what are we learning? What are we trying to figure out? What are we building for the next? So I'm just like you, super excited. And I always say, even try to go to a biblical part of it. The enemy knows you. So even if you consider it an enemy, you should still know how to use it. You should still know how it works. And even for me, I love it. I'm same like you. I'm excited about it. I'm on it as much as I can, trying to figure it out. There's so many free classes and things like that out there as well. So I love what you're doing. I mean, AI heavy. That's where we are, and it's here. I mean, even on your phones and everything, generative AI, it's there already. So you should know what you
been here. It's been here. It's been here for the last 20 years. Actually, right in front of our faces. autocorrect and all of those different things is the same thing. It's been right here in front of our faces. Even before I was born, they've been talking about AI. The first Terminator movie came out in what, 86. That's not talking about nothing but AI, right? So it's been here, it's been around. We just have to learn to adapt. Like I said, we are always the last ones to get on board or something. And this is the best thing since the internet, right? A lot of us was slow to, a lot of us remember dial-up internet, back then, and all of those different things. And we're the last generation to remember that. Now these kids, they growing up with it right in the cribs, right?
Yeah.
We have a whole generation of I like to call them 2000 babies, right? Because they're grown now. They're 25, so they grew up with it, and it's a must. It's here. It's not going anywhere, and it's not a choice anymore to adapt with it. It's a must. It's really a must. I speak at a lot of schools, speaking about it, and just seeing how outdated these curriculums are. We're wondering why our kids are not learning, or don't want to go to school, or don't want to go to these institutions, or getting, just brainwashed, somewhere else. It's because they're not equipping themselves. These institutions are not equipping themselves. And, I'm not a complaining type of person. I'm more of a, hey, let's figure out a solution. So that's what our programs is for. We have to create more programs, for the future. At the end of the day, the youth is the future, at the end of the day. So speaking of AI, we skipping a few, and I would love to see, we skipping a few questions, but let's talk about technical automation. What simple automation tool has saved you the most time or helped you scale your business?
Um, Man, I don't know. That's a tough question. That is a real tough question. Yeah, I kind of dabble in a lot of them. I'm really not sure about that one. How about for you? Yeah, I deal with a lot of them.
What's your main one? What's your favorite tool?
Oh, man, you blinded me with that one. Um, I have to say, I can't really say. I really, I'm really not sure. I'm really not sure. How about for you?
Now I feel that it is tough. Me personally, I have a database that we've been building. Right now, I believe we're up to 115 different AI tools on that database, and right now, the ones I probably use on the daily is things like Gemini. Gemini.
Yeah,
Google has definitely stepped up his game. It's really been pushing me away from ChatGPT. I've been putting people up on ChatGPT for years now, but Gemini has definitely stepped up their game. And I talk to Gemini like a partner. I literally have conversations. You can literally sit there and have a real life conversation with Gemini now.
got
And,
it. Yeah,
I love to come up with different ideas and brainstorm different ideas or different strategies that I'm already thinking about and figuring out, how can we add on top of it? How can we add more value to this? I like to analyze websites and analyze different pages. Even with our clients, we like to, use AI to put together different outlines. So, that way we can have, make sure that we have all of the details that we need before we work on the project or start on the project. So that's super big for me. Um, Notion is another one that I use
mhm.
that we pretty much just revamped. Really kind of pushing me away from Google Docs and different things like that because we have a lot of different projects that we're working on. So, something like that is very good for us to, kind of manage all of those different projects, making sure that we, checking off the boxes, making sure that we, that we got our, everything, that we need in order, and making sure that our team, because our team is steady expanding. So making sure that, they're equipped with, all of the tools that they need to do whatever it is that they're doing, whether they're a mentor, whether they're an advisor. Same thing with our members, making sure that we, can manage their projects, and keep track of the process and the progress. I mean,
Absolutely.
I think that's the biggest thing as entrepreneurs. We get so busy and we have our hands in so many different things. We wear so many hats where, we forget all of the things that we actually get a chance to accomplish. And I think that's super important to keep track of your process. I mean your progress, so you can just stay motivated. Because sometimes we feel like we're doing so much, and then you feel like you're not doing nothing. You like, man, I need to be doing nothing. And then come to find out, you didn't accomplish X, Y, and Z over the time frame. So I think that's super important. Language models is top tier for us, and we've been creating a lot of content as well, using like things like Sora 2, and even using Gemini to create content as well. So because we have a social media management team, that's been a huge win for us. Helping us really create different content for different members of ours. So hey, those are some that we really use, maybe main ones. But hey, like I said, we've replaced a lot of department heads with AI for sure.
Now, do you bounce Chat GPT off of Gemini? Because for me, I find myself, I may say, okay, what does this one say versus what this one may say, and then from there, always keeping, like they say, keep a human in the loop, right? So then I may extrapolate what I want from the different ones. Is that where you find yourself, or you're strictly tied to maybe a Gemini?
Oh yeah, I bounce myself back and forth. I've been using Gemini a lot more though. I was primarily using ChatGPT. It just
Yeah.
seems like it's been slowing down a lot. They've been trying to, they've been doing what the cell phone companies do. They slow your phones down, try to get you to upgrade. So it's been a lot of that lately. And Gemini haven't gotten to that point yet. So I have been using Gemini far as speed wise. I've been using it a lot more. Content generation wise, I've been using it a lot more. But yeah, I do compare the two depending on the project that I'm working on. It may not give me an answer that I'm needing. But yeah, lately I've been using primarily Gemini for sure.
Yep. Okay. Yep. Yeah. For me, I'll just type in, and I think I use them all to play off of each other to kind of see what I can again take from each the different ones, and then build what I'm actually looking for and trying to say. So yeah, I just kind of float them around and use them against each other.
So real quick, I got another one for you, and this is something that I love to play around with. Right? What is your what would be the perfect what? Okay, let me ask it like this: What problem would the perfect AI tool solve for you right
Uh, for me, the perfect AI tool would probably solve, and this is kind of for me and what I'm hearing from other people asking, really building that let's say it like this, building that process from start to finish. Somebody came to me the other day, said, I want to learn how to detail cars. Where do I start? What do I do? So it would be awesome if they can put that in there, and they probably can. But even to dig deeper than that, where can they find resources versus find resources? How to find resources, how to build it. And I think it just goes from start to finish. And again, like you mentioned, you can't, and it's not going to do it for you. But I think just being able to kind of on a deeper level, kind of help you build that whole, if you business plan, I guess, if you will, if you want to say that, but just a little bit, it's just deeper than deeper even than a blueprint. I mean, a business plan. It's just to help you kind of, I don't want to say be a buddy right next to you, but kind of being a buddy right next to you and walking you hand in hand with everything. And I think kind of like you mentioned with Gemini, being able to bounce off those ideas and things like that and kind of help you in real time. I think that would be awesome. I think that would be awesome because a lot of times, like you say, you don't have a team around you. Even the team with the different hats and different resources. And if you can have something like that, that say, hey, you need this and you need this and you need this, and we can generate that for you. Because a lot of times you don't know what you don't know. But if there was something that can build all of that for you in one setting, I mean, that would be amazing. That would be amazing.
it's crazy that I get that answer a lot. Most people say, "Hey, I just need a clone of myself," right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just need some clones.
Yes.
It's crazy because me and my team, we've been really digging deep and and diving into it, especially our AI team, stack developers that we've been working with, trying to figure out how can we bring that to life, right? How can we create, and combine all of these different tools to create an actual assistant that can actually do these things in your sleep. And and that's why this is one of the reasons why I'm excited about our AI masterclass, because this is exactly what we're going to be talking about. Because D Hudson already done it. He's like the real life Tony Stark. Like, he can actually talk. He got AI agents and chatbots where he can talk to his Apple Watch, and it works in his sleep. It takes calls. It looks for grants. He has AI chatbots who actually not only search grants up, but fill them out, send them an email when he find them. So it's so much you can do. It's just having the right people in place to put it together. And it's so much energy that it takes up. So these are some things that we can be touching on, and figuring out how can we get other people to move like Tony Stark.
I love that. I
Yeah.
love that. Because again, like you said, we got to be on that forward thinking thing, right? We don't want to be, I heard it said, we don't want to be where the puck is. We want to be where the puck is going to be. So we want to get out in front and where it's headed and where we're going. So I love that. I love it.
It's a must that we do it,
Yeah.
because we've seen it with the internet. We didn't really get in front of that, and for the people that did, they're up here. They're for the people who invested early, or for the people who got on YouTube and social media early, these people are huge now. So this is the same thing. Sometimes I feel like, even though I was there, sometimes I feel like I missed that wave because I didn't really jump on social media. I was a kid. I really didn't jump on social media like that. I had a Facebook, but I really didn't do anything with it. I had a MySpace, but MySpace is more so, to share music and stuff like that. I really didn't, understand the concept and take it to the next level. So now I'm like, okay, I'm not letting this pass me by. We gotta jump on this AI wave, because it's getting bigger and bigger. I don't see it doing what the NFTs did, right? I see it just keep going and going. I do see where it's going, far as these major companies taking over. I see smaller companies getting ate up, but that's just the game. That's business, right? We have. That's why it's so important that we have to become these major corporations as well. That's what we're doing. Helping these small business owners, and even working with, we got some corporations that we work with, like Otterbox and Samsung. We've done some work with different things like that. But most of our community consists of small business owners, because we're the backbone. We have to operate like the major corporations. There's no way around it. We have to operate like them. So speaking of operations, speaking of major, operating like major corporations, I really want to talk about funding and financial growth, right? Because, like I said, this is one of the major problems that most small businesses have a problem with. What funding opportunities do you think most small business owners often overlook, especially in the underserved communities?
I think for me, first and foremost, is themselves. I Years ago, my cousin, he had a few restaurants. He let me present my product in front of his friends, and they own McDonald's, they own gas stations, he owned pizza places. And once I was done presenting my product, one of the guys said back to me, "You're asking us to fund you, but how much have you put in yourself?" And I said none at the time. And one of the things he said to me was, "You can't ask anybody to invest in you, and you haven't invested anything in yourself." So I've never, I mean, that had to be like 20 years ago. I've never forgot that. And I was thinking about, even with Christmas and birthdays and things like that, I want the gift, not the money to invest in my product. I want the gift. I want this, but you can take that money and repurpose that money and invest in your product and invest in yourself. So I think first and foremost, one of the most overlooked is yourself. Got to start with you, especially kind of growing up. Let's just be honest. I'm the only inventor in my family that I know. And people are like, well, what's inventing, and what's this, and what's a patent, and what's a utility patent? They ain't looking really to invest in that like that. And again, you touched on the fear type of thing, and we're kind of late to certain things. So I think one of the most overlooked is yourself. You can do it. You can start there, and then kind of what you talked about, grassroots campaigns and things like that. But start with you.
I love it. I love it. I mean, it's something that we had to do. Like I said, I started off bootstrapping, investing in myself, and that's a big thing. I spoke to a lot of angel investors over the years, and that's the first thing that they look for. I asked them, like, what do you look for, when you're about to invest? straight from the horse's mouth. They look into the person. They don't think you can have the best idea out here, the best invention, but if they don't believe in you, the person that you are, they're not going to invest their money. So I think that's super big. I think that was probably the best answer that I've had on the brainstorming sessions. Yet I think that's super important. Invest in yourselves, man. No one cares.
Right.
It's the bottom line. You have to make them care. You have to make them care. And the only way to do that is just show and prove, right? And this is something I had to do. I was an entrepreneur before it was cool, I would say. And people looked at me crazy, until I invested in myself, until I, stepped out there and stepped out on faith and, accomplished certain things. And then people came on board once they seen like, oh man, he's traveling. He's every time I see you, I look up, you're doing this, you're doing that, you're working with so and so. Okay, what can I do? And at first, I took that. I really didn't like that at first. I'm like, you get to the point where like, hey man, why you didn't, support me in the beginning? But now I understand, you didn't have nothing to support. And then at the same time, I was new. I didn't know how I needed people to support me. And this is something I talk to our members and to different people that I, talk to about. Before you scream support and you get mad at somebody for not supporting you, you have to know what you need support in. And you have to know how to get people to support you. Sometimes people just don't know. Sometimes you need to tell them straight up, how can you support? Sometimes they have misconceptions, like when we used to, when we host different events and activities, some people are like, hey, I support it, I showed up. But it's like, yeah, but you got it for free and you got to support none of the vendors. So, I mean, is that really support? And you didn't bring anybody. So is that really support, or did you just come off my dime? Or it might be somebody who have a major influence, right? And all you need for them to do is just show up. And then 10, 20 other people might show up because of them, and they pay, right? So it's so many different levels to support. I think we need to, as a business owner, you need to figure out what type of support you need, and you need to figure out, is this person even capable of supporting me in the way that I need them to support? Sometimes your family is not capable of supporting you in the way that you need, so, you get mad at them for nothing, and they just doing what they're capable of doing. They're just living how they're capable, or the only way they know how to live. So I think that's super important for entrepreneurs to understand, how, dig deep into how you need people to support you. But the only way for you to do that is invest in yourself. Take that step out of faith, and put your own money up at the end of the day. Sometimes it's all we can do, because the banks, they don't want to give you any money. It's barely any grants out there. It's barely any federal funding. Really ain't no federal funding out there.
Right. Yeah.
So it's so it's but that's where we come in. We've been talking a lot about business credit. Utilizing knowing the difference between good and bad credit, right? And not only teaching our members on how to get their business credit in line and utilize it, but how to pay it back, right? Because that's the biggest thing. That's something that this is one of the reasons why I stayed away from. I didn't get a credit card until I was 30. My first credit card until I was 30, because of the bad stigma that I had about it. All I've heard, I come from the Black community, so all we know about is bad debt, right? Yeah. All we know about is debt, right? So, I didn't want to be one of those ones who was in crazy debt or anything like that. But once I started to figure out, it's a game, and we have to know how to play the game. Once we know how to play the game and you play it right, that can be good. So that was the biggest thing that I've learned, and it goes back to just, learning as you grow, right? It's a lot of these things I didn't know, coming out of the gate. And this is why I'm in the position I am now. So if we can give this same knowledge to somebody that's coming out the gate, somebody that's young, somebody that's 18 or whatever the case may be, and teach them the difference between good and bad debt, oh my God, it's going to be, a whole nother ball game. So, that's what we're here for, to spread the knowledge on stuff that I didn't know. I didn't know a lot of. I'm not one of these fake gurus or trying to act like, I just know it all and I got it down pat. We're still learning, right? We're still learning new ways to grow and adapt. I'm still learning new things. Even through our brainstorming sessions, I learn new stuff all the time through different individuals, and I think it's that's priceless at the end of the day, for sure.
Man, that is beautiful. That is beautiful. And I tell my kids the exact same thing related to credit because it was taboo, right? We didn't talk about that stuff. So I tell my kids the same thing. It is a game. They test you, they give you a little bit, you pay it back, and then it grows. And they're betting that you don't pay it back. And you got to bet on yourself that you will pay it back and take the house. So yeah, that's why I laugh when you said that because I explain it the same way to my kids. It is a game, and you got to bet on you because they're betting against you. So, but I believe in you. So, but it's things that I same here. It just wasn't really talked about.
I mean, and I don't like to make this a color thing. I'm all about all hands on deck, right? But at the end of the day, I come from a community where, and I come from a culture where, not too long ago, it was illegal for us to even know how to read. Man. That was a death sentence.
Right.
So we have to understand where we come from and know the why. We don't, and there is no financial literacy classes in these schools, right? They don't teach us they don't teach us nothing about credit. They don't teach us nothing about good or bad debt, right? So we have to create these programs. We have to go out here and find this knowledge. And this is the best time right now because the knowledge is right here in the palm of our hands.
Absolutely.
We don't have to go to the library or, go visit our uncle who, may own the store, and most of us didn't have uncles who owned the store. Our fathers didn't own stores, right? Different things like that. I was just blessed enough to grow up around different backgrounds where I grew up around Chaldeans and, just all different types of backgrounds where I've actually seen them like, okay, your uncle owned a store? Wow. That's crazy. And, get to see how they live, how they all live 20 people in one house. But I bet you all their credit is A1.
Yep.
So by the time they find their love when they get married, they have all the credit, all the money that they need to start their family and get a house. We're the only culture that look down upon staying in your parents' house past 18.
Right. Yeah,
the only culture. The only culture. When really that's a good thing. Why not stay in let's all stay in a mini mansion and combine our finances and live, and then once it's time for us to create our own family, we have the credit. We're not in debt. Most of our people we coming out of high school in debt. Out of high school. So it's time to change the narrative. We're doing it. We're doing it. The youth now, they're our saviors. They are immaculate. The things that they're doing and coming up with. And just their mindset alone, they're winning. So we have to feed them, man, because they're going to be. We're breaking some generational curses.
Absolutely.
And I love it. I love to see. I love to see the youth doing what they're doing. That's why this year we're going to focus more on the youth because, these programs, we need these programs. We need these STEM programs. We need these STEAM programs. We need these self-defense programs. We need these entrepreneurship and financial literacy programs. We need them. It's detrimental that we know how to run the economy so we don't have to rely on somebody else, red or blue, whatever. We don't have to rely on either one of those, right?
Absolutely.
And that's my biggest thing. How can we build generational wealth and not still be stuck in the same system that we've been stuck in long time? And we doing it. I love it. I love what we're doing. I'm seeing it every day. I'm talking to these innovators. I'm talking to these entrepreneurs, talking to people like you that's innovating and changing the world. And it's motivating for me to just keep on going. I know we're doing the right thing. They might not want to give us no funding or whatnot, but hey, we got the community. That's why we started our Friends of the Mob program, because we got we got people that, hey, I want to donate to what y'all doing, right? So that's what we need to continue on doing, building our village. So that's what we're doing. Speaking of building the village, man, I want to speak on mindset and leadership. This is something that I've been contemplating on making this module 1, but this is actually one of our later modules. What mindset shift has made the biggest impact on your growth? Now, how do you keep yourself motivated when things get harder?
So for me, I think it's a belief. Like you've been talking, it's just belief. I always tell people get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Leap into your uncomfortable. For me, I think that's the biggest mindset. My mom always tells me, I don't know where you got it from, but and I thank God, right? All the wisdom and knowledge come from heaven above, so I take no credit for it. To God be the glory in everything. But man, I think it's just a belief. Manifestation, acceleration, and that's what this year is: manifestation, acceleration. And I love what you said about bringing it and seeing it, going from our mind and making it tangible. I believe I can get that. I believe I can achieve that, and I'm gonna do it. I think that's the biggest mindset shift for me, and I'm in the same ballpark, man. I mean, you're giving me goosebumps. I'm excited. I could run out of this room right now because just the kindred spirit, and that's what we need, and that's where we are right now. It's such an exciting time. We can do anything. I deal with people in the UK. I deal with people in India and China. I mean, you can deal with people all over the world, to bring your product to fruition, to bring whatever you're trying to do to fruition. You can learn anything right in the palm of your hand. I mean, it's just such an exciting time. But I think just to believe I can do it is the biggest mind shift for me.
You can't beat it. You can't beat it. Mindset is everything, and belief. If you don't believe in yourself, nobody else will. At the end
Yeah.
of the day, it just it's over with. You did before you even started. And it's super important to have that mindset. We always, last year we sent out a bunch of mindset books and audio books to our members, just to keep them in that mindset, because it get hard, man. It's
It
gonna get
is
hard.
hard.
That's one
It
thing
is.
you can count on. It's going to get hard,
Yeah.
but you need that village, and you need people around. I like to be people accountability partners at the same time, where we don't got time to complain about it. We have to dig deep in ourselves and figure it out. I got into things like meditation. Of course, prayer and meditation
Yeah,
is
absolutely.
something that I've been really getting more heavy on. I used to think meditation was a bunch of BS, to be honest with
Mhm.
you. But so I really started to get into it, and I'm like, oh,
Mhm.
this is, man, I should have been doing this. But because if you're not right up here, you can't do anything else. You're dead in the water. So that's super important, man. Mindset over matter. Mindset over everything, for sure.
Yes.
Real quick, man. Last question: what advice would you give these upcoming moguls?
I would say just remember your why, because like you said, it gets hard. There's some tough days. You just want to quit. You want to give up. I've been there. I'm sure you've been there. You just like, am I doing the right things? Just remember your why. Remember your why. Remember what, for me, I say what God has a planted in me. Just remember that. I think about it every morning. And like you were saying, what keeps you going, remember that every morning, going to bed, waking up, and even the books, the help books, and the motivational speakers I listen to, and that keeps me going. But yeah, just remember your why, because it's gonna get hard, but that's part of the process. And that's why, like, you got to fall in love with that process, because all of it is part of the process. And I tell people that the process is where your story is. The process is where you allows me to come on platforms like this and can share, because I learned all that in the process. So I think that's just your biggest thing. Remember that why, because for me, my son, and when I see him, I'm like, man, it just motivates me again to keep going. I mean, he's my why, and um, man, I just remember your why. When it gets tough, just remember that.
That's a key. That's a key. It's crazy. It's actually going to tie into the assignment that I'm going to leave our viewers with. But it's super important. My first, I just had my first son. He just turned
Oh,
one yesterday, actually.
congratulations!
So it's crazy. I got a 1 year old. It's crazy even saying it. But it's a whole nother motivation. I wish I would have had him at a younger age, actually,
Mhm.
because it's a whole different motivation that I have now. I've always been a passionate guy, and to be a full time entrepreneur and to actually love what I do. It's a blessing, but it still get hard, and all I got to do is look at him, and hey, we back to it. We have to, the marathon must continue. And I love it, man. The motivation is at an all-time high. Real quick, man, let the people know where they can find you, where they can reach out to you at, and then give the mob a quick shout out.
Okay, so yeah, so again, shout out to MOB, the mob. I love what you guys are doing. I love the platform. You can find me on Shawn Moye, last name Moye. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on same thing, just Shawn Moye. You can type me in, Smart Sports Trainer. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on Twitter. You can find me on all the social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram. Again, through this platform, I'm sure there'll be some content information you can find me. But again, reach out if there's any questions you have. I definitely want to connect and hook up and be a part of MOB as well. So this platform is amazing. Um, I love what's going on out there. I love when you reached out and I learned about what you're doing. This is beautiful. It really is, and it's much needed because there's a lot of questions out there. Like I said, even for my son who started because he's outside of what I do, right? My natural thing. He built coding and he developed this platform and which I'll share, but that's outside of what I do. So again, another nephew, he wants to do detailing on cars and things like that. But now there's a place that I'm going to direct them to and say, hey, you guys need to connect and be a part of this and grow.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Man, hey, I can't wait to continue on building. It's just been a pleasure. I always love, like I said, it just never fails. I always love connecting with like-minded individuals. Definitely, we'll love to have your son and your nephew come on the board, man. Be a part of the community, so we can figure out how we can just, push this thing to the furthest extent. At the end of the day, that's what we're here for. So I appreciate you, King, for just connecting with us and giving us your time. Time is so valuable these days, and it's we don't take that lightly. Especially when you give us your time to drop gems and help somebody else, and also shed light on the great things that you're doing in the community. So I love it. Definitely we're gonna definitely continue to build. Before I let our people go, I want to give them a quick I want to give this assignment that I've been giving you guys this month. Since we're in, the first month of the year, we want to take you to module 1, and it's called the Why Audit, right? I want you guys to write a 1-page founder's manifesto. I want you guys to detail exactly why you're starting this venture or why you have started the venture that you're on. And I want you to jot down your core values that will basically guide you to make your decisions and what success looks like to you beyond just profit, right? Again, these assignments are not for me, but if you want to share them, we would love to, see that you guys are doing them. But at the end of the day, these assignments aren't for me. I'm not going to be grading them. These are things that you should be doing anyway, right? We just want to make sure you guys are, actually progressing. And hey, it's the top of the year. It's the best time to get on it. Whether you are already a business owner or if you've been thinking about, starting a business. This is literally your sign. This is literally your confirmation. It's the best time. It's the best time. I remember when I first started my business, I had to, print up 100 shirts and stuff like that. We're no longer in those times no more. We don't have to print up 1,000 business cards and different things like that. You can just get started with your mind. You can just get started with your mindset and putting together some actions, putting together a plan. Get started that way. Put together a plan. Definitely, utilize this why audit. If you have an idea, audit yourself. Figure out why. Figure out the why, because that's going to be the most important thing that's going to keep you guys in the game. But yeah, until next time, my family, I'll talk to you guys shortly. Let's continue on building. Hey, until next time.